kona kuli tava eni vatakufama mela kwa vana ni vasaliki tava ya kuikambusanga kuno inepula hamwinzi mapuno. Muikambuse kuno inepulanga hamunzi mapuno. Eni hanizibikuli kanti kinkweza hala nkante hanzibikuli butata kibufi kona kuli kimalova malova ni kinezi anzapa nisiri kuno yezangizani sentovo na kuna ni anani lumezi link kona kuli link yone haike mutu yo ki mutu yaziva hala ahulululi chwale na hani muziva kensa kuli lipina za vinanga kilipina zisabaliza abanana bafa babancha bafa foku mukona hani kutwanga kuli mwendi mutu seli musupalika kuli havulera kuva babancha savulera kuli banana babancha nikona kuli mutu haisali mwanana kona kuli unilumezi ona maswanso ao mi hanu yo kwalula senefumana kuli ki muchahayo winzi mapunu winzi ni musali yo mungu niye na winzi mapunu chale nane nsazi vivutungi vwatava kuli kuyeza hala inka kuli haniva zivi mene vainzi mwa maswanso mo kona kuli sento lumela yo mungu kuli mane wafona zeza hala kwa alikepele kona kuli yena kubona hala kuli mwendi wabaziva vatu vani kona kuli sato nikandekela kuli musali yo yainzi mwa video kimusali ya nyezu yo mane muna hai na izolo volama sharing atolika na 85,000 niliko muzeli shumi kunisiana nikoma kine fa musali yo kimusali ya nyezwi kona kuli yo ya inzi niye na yo mwa maswaniso mo ya inzi mapono niye na kimulikana muna hai kona kusento shungulela kuli kanti mwendi kwa tava ye kuna nilitava ze ipatile zensikale muhakale na kakuli vato vahani vazivi mi seni ya kwa likepe kulika kutalima musali kulika kutalima ni muna kulikibo mangi kuna kuli musali kimusali yaziva hala hulu muna niyena ki mutu yaziva hala hulu miri zazireli tatama asamlaho amaswanso au kuamba kana kwa makepeko yauli nivolelanga tava ya kuli unanivumai tava ya hao hayo fita kwa makepe kuli batu chale bakala kuilumela yona peto akusana susoko na kuyeza fo high school terafera kuli liluleo litaye litofita hitone la pula peto lifere kakuli vunde bwa nakoni esa upila kuyona kikuli vatu hava inele lifera fatava ilingwi bupilo wazamaya litavazazamaya kachanu kiwena kamso kiyomungi kwa na vunde bwa nakoni esa upila kuyona konovu maiki kuli butata bukataha niyona kezo yeo kapa butata vu kinto yoka utwa nako yetelele chwale nitire chwani fakutomi vulelela kuli valikani muikambuse kunonganga phone smartphone hamunzi mapuno kapa unzu nosi kapa winzi niyo mungu mutu muikambuse kunonganga maswaniso kakuli waisakai maswaniso ao kwa isa waisakai vo vatakuli vavona mapuno ahao kivomanyi kapa vo vatakuli vavone zemu yezanga mwamusio kivomanyi nizwele pili nilikandelaka kona kuli muchahayo kimuchahaya zivahala hulu mi mwavona mwami sevezi ya yavo peli kapa yavo vini kuna nintu eva visa kuliki endorsement kuna nintu eva visa kuliki endorsement kuli wasevelisana nili business zeto kwa vatu babaziva hala hulu kona kulise utovo na zivise ya kuli kuna ni business yengwe nevelekisana niyena yese sile kuveleka niyena naswanela kuya kwa na habutswana kuna swanela kuyovina I think anisivi kapa wao pela niko pela mtu yani kona kuli niko na kova hanile kuli hasaya kwa tena kona kuli nana ni hamo chwalo ni misevezi ene sataha naswanela kuya kwa vakaze shutana mwali fasi kaufela nivoni kuli kukuluvelwa kuli niyona misevezi yo niyona kele feliswa livaka vakenisa kuli maswaniso ahaye inga inzi ni musali ya nyezu inge vanizi mapunu kaufela vona avile kwa makepe chole vatu swaselu kuna munyeza ntava ya kuli hana asa koni kuyova ni musali usiri kisi kama ngizana ayeza ni musali wa mutu yomungu yana aziva king yeo kona taba ise nyemsize ahulu sichava ni vatu kwa makepe kwani banyemire chwale kona foni tofita foni kuvolela kuli muuzo kwa kuna upanganga litava zenzi choloka kuli hamuzivi kuli yakona kupunyehela ikona kuva kuli mina mwanga fela kuli ki meto amina kuli kiza meto amina kono hamuzivi kuli yake ozipunyehela ona likazani kimanyi mi hake ozipunyehela okazi sakai iyo kitava yamusazivi chale kusileleza litava zeswana ingeze mwikambo sefela kwa kuno nganga ona litava ze nevele vatu vavazwa kwa haini vana kuna nifane vavata kukataza kwa likepo na kwa vana musali nene voni fela ali mungi musali nene voni fela ali mungi kona kuli vana nivona kwa nifane vavata kukataza kwa bakepe kwa WhatsApp mapunu avana vavazwa kwa haini ingelo avona kwa WhatsApp kunisiana nikobokile ulikweza halaini hapa hanzi kuli vo mama vani kapane bakutire kwa likepe faka kuli neno utire kuli maswani swavona hatova kwa makepe sevazwa kwa makepe chale hauzifa pakele bayokota kakuli nivulezi tava ya kuli vunde vana koni ese upira kuyona niho kaeza mafosa kacheno mafosa ni mwendi kukanga fela anisepi kuli ni viki mane yako na kuvatenga mwendi ki mazazi fela amaveli amala lupeto on to the next lupila mwana koni omose kweza kuli litava kizengata kona kuli halukoni kuina ni kuswalela fatava ilingwi ise yeza hezi lwazwe la pili bupilo wazwe la pili kona kuli kona zene ni bata kumi kandekela zeo kwama kuikambusa kuno inepolanga hamunzi mapunu kapa munzi munosi kapa munzi niyo mungwi mwikambusika kuli hamuzi vuli mapuno ani lizazile lingwi akayova kai chwale kona zeo kakuli wakona kusinyehelwa ki musevezi ono kungile lilimo na lilimo kuli utofita foso inzika chenu kakuli mucha hayani uyozwa kwa hule mi kumungile nako kuikeze za revision kutofita fana inzifa kuli mufufuzo kaufela wanu utoshinywa fela kili kaza tuzuzu nyana fela mizuzu nyana kuli maswanso wani hansepi kuli nevele mizuzu ye miveli ya kwa na maswanso mani kimapuno vanizi mapuno ngeva opela ni musala mutu mukupole fela tava yo chalekanga imba ka tova pala ma mizuzu nyana ndibona kuli ni nani yon wamezi kanga imba kasaba pala mi luka la pili asamlao muskema kwa hule lu hamoho lutona hamoho kaufela vene vani vata mutahe kinayo mutoni vulera kuli nemuni vatena ze nemuni vatena nani vaterezi vavaterezanga kono havalize anzivi kuli vutata vavona kivufi mukunoliza shangwe. Okay, Luka tozwela pili muske maya kwa hule kele niyo kutakona kuli nswanela kuyeza nika pangaliko kauna kakancha kima zazi nikalile kalengeni vulela tava yekona hakuna sisi yezahara litava zendekize imba izwezi pili lwekelize mikwa yengwi yencha kukona kunolofaza kwa nkufisa hamocho alo ni mata amskavo na kale kana mwitukiselize kuvona msevelezo wa imba ye mufumane lisevelezo zezwezi pili ze kakulifafela mashilingi alika na $36 kakweli kapa kamikwa ye kutesifa fasi ye tatama 5% machipisa hamngolisalikelize talu 10% machipisa hamngolisalikelize silela 25% machipisa hamngolisalikelize lishumipeli muketeli kwelizo muvata kuli mukone kukala kuikola zende zeo imba imiswalezi fama chipisa imba okubukanili fasi kaufela mwipe kwa lisevelezo za imba kachenu kuli mukone kuikola zende kaufela.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Simon, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Lipuranengelo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maundu tuto ingida ashike kapeno nwe kutite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondabe nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamwili nawa ningepata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Yenshangwe lwazwe la pili kona kuliseli mizuzu ye lishumini ya miveli yesi alezi kuli lukone okena mahola yavu lishumipeli neni sweli kuvulera taba ya kuli nsonela kuyeza lusonela kuyeza kapangaliko kaluna kakancha wakengisa kuli na kuyauna na ichinchize anitivi kapanele mizivisize baterezi va munye ilefela wayalesi ya mina chono ngufa program yauna na ichinchize seikala hola ya vulishu mingwi kona ulisa lukalanga 11 o'clock halusa kalanga 11:30 kona kuli kanto kalu na kani nekavulelanga kuli lukala 11:30 kona kuli luswanela kukachincha luswanela kuyeza kakancha kona uniswanela kuvatana komwa mazazi ya luvone kuli lukakaeza chwani miki manzwi avomanyi kono nikave ya manzwi avatukaofera wavalizanga hanlati kutongokelwa kuli hape la kalinzwe halisio inge mane batongokezi bopita nako yani habatoutwa kani kakamwe kuli hao hape minavo muyezi zengi chwale kona kuli nikavata kubani babalizanga nikatalima kwa manzu ya mina nikakona kukopanya kuli love nikapangaliko kakancha chwale muzwe kwa kuno inepolanga inge mwinzi mapuno mwikambuse kuno inepolanga inge mwinzi mapuno akuli hamuzivi likazeze engwe haziziveli nako yengwi ikava mina kwa makepe kwani lukavona fela maswaniso hakuna nto yeterere ike video ya 1 minute 30 seconds kwa likepe ivona hala inge kulikihola mkatumbi ivona hala inge kulikihola mkatumbi kakuli 1 minute mutu inga atalimezi filosori kunovuha zemsweli kunoyeza mapunu amina awa ansepi kuli kuna ni atavela kunovonanga mapunu avatufa kwa makepe ansepi kuli kuna ni atavela kunovonanga mapunu avatu kwa makepe chale musie kunoyeza ngalitavaze chalo nakoye muka epomana lusori kuno mivuha foni mivulelezi ansepi kuli nika mivulelela hape kakuli tava yekele nivona hangata suulu ko vaviza kuliki kwa WhatsApp kele nivona hangata mapunu kama maswaniso wa mapunu inga ya kwa WhatsApp isi asika itukiseza mutu kakuli hangata muka utwa kuli nelima fosa zole puzo nevuzanga kiakuli makepe hao kapa maswaniso hao isingi makepe maswaniso ao nayezangi mwamuhala wa hao in the first place ona ni maswaniso wa mapuno king muchinche sichava muchinche kona kuli nibona kuli lukave upotezi misika mwa mizuzu yelo vapeli lukave upotezi misika nifumanili tongoko za kuno hotele zanga programu ya makutela kono nene mizivisize kuli hani nakuvatengi chwale hai vakuli hani nakuvatengi kitaluso ya kuli hakuna tuso ya kuteleza kwa wireless kwanda kuli hamunavutata ni kuteleza programu ya makutela hani laeza famoya ni laeza kuli mizivisa kuli hani nakuvatengi chole nani hamu nilizeza kutongoka kuli nemsori kunoliza famoya nenisami alavi nimivuza kuli kone sine nimilaezize mwani komokisa hani laeza kuli hani nakuvatengi tausa ya kuli ni hamkaliza famoya hakuna yakami alava haitausi kuli maana lisa halati kwa alava muhala wa mina vatili maana lisa hayo maana lisa niye na kimutu oku mutu kwa pumulo tokwa pumulo ya kuyo vuyela ni kuhupula zengu iza vupila nisi nkuhupula koli hape vopita havasikali zaka chenu kingi kapa vonjenje mavakai kapa vo masule vakai vo Hendrix vakai vatili kona kuli kacheno ni vata kuli lwambole tavaye nivona kuli lukato yambola samlaho alukayozwa kwa misika kwani kuna ni kozi ya famu kwa ye nivoni kwa likepe kwa kikozi ye za hezi mahala tolopo ya alwane mahala tolopo ya nivona kuli tolopo ya randisni usakos kana kuli motkala zeperi zetuna zecha isani mi ne utire kuli yomo yana kwa eza motkala yengu yesori kutuka kakuli motkala yengu yesori kutuka yo utimelezi ona mwa motkala mo kona kuli kuluverwa kuli uchezi mwa motkala chali isakuta fatava ya kuli mikwakwa ya luna auzibi kuli vakakona kuvona lili kuli kusileleza litavaziswa nengeze kikuyekeza mikwakwa ya luna kakuli mikwakwa ya luna kieminyana usulinge mkwakwao mukwakwa wa usakos ni arandisiko msisa na hulu kona kuli kuvu nolo limotkala kuchaisana chwale anizivi mafua kanzwe la pili kuvateng yo kona tava yelu ziva kaufela luna kuli haiva hakuna sisika yezwa fami kwa fuku vanga hulu likozi hazina kuyema hazina kutirafa fasi zikazwe la pili chale kivumai kona kuliana nikandekela kia pepwa ni ya timezi mi lufitsa manzwi amatomo la pilo kavumai yeni kona kulimwa makande amangwi riporet kovani vana liviana avalekile liviana kamukwa wapanka kivona vavazi vakuli riporet haipahama riporet haikutafa fasi riporet haisachinchi kuyeza halang talsang miyelwazi vakuli neyinzi fa 6.75% milufumani piho yakuli haiskachincha isainzona 4 fa 6.75%. Kintu eniliyehile kutotwisisa mwende kili vakala kuli hakuna hanina likoloti hanina mota hanina ndu hanikoloti masherengi kwa panka kono kintu enitoro twisisa kuli haipahama kuyeza halachwani kwa valifa masherengi kwa panka haikutafa fasi kuyeza halachwani milufumana piho yakuli havasika ichincha havasika yekeza haisika kutafa fasi isi alona 4 fa 6.75%. Kona kuli mwami zuzu emiveli lukave lupotezi misika miasamlaho lukatoambola tava yeni miswalezi miasamlaho nikakona kukwaola mihala kuli kaufela vene vani vata semkakona kutonikandekela zene munivatela kuli kili kamanyi namsori kunivatela muniswalezi masherengi nina masherengi munifekwa masherengi munilumele masherengi munani nombolo yaka kaufela mina chwale haiva kuliki masherengi ene munivatela muyeze zende mwendi kwana masherengi anasori kunovava mwalizola kama avani ki masherengi amuniswalezi vatelezi vaka nenivulezi kuli mbava ngatahulo kafela mina hamuzwisa nevele ba 200 mama 300 nena naikutwa kuli nalatiwa luli naikutwa kuli nalatiwa mihani kutwa kuli nalatiwa naya niweza likazende ni masherengani amunifile chwale vopita vonjenjema haiva uliki masherengene munivatela mutaye mutonifawana kili na yofa kile ni yokuta hakusika chipa kuvanga fa moya fa kwatula kutahanga fa moya fa chwale hani mivulela kuli niwile hani na masherengi sonela kuyeza maplan peto mwandilumela masherengi nitavile maso kuna nimpoye nifilwe kambe mwakona kuivona nenika misupeza yona kono nitali meziki mpoye nifilwe kachenu very beautiful kuna ni watu baba inzi baba hupola maswe yo mutu ka hupula fera kuli ni fempo ye kuma analisa sereka of my hamko ni kuivona nene kama supeza yona very beautiful kiende maswe misika kiyo mi asamlaho luto ambola kwama vavancha vavasina misevezi mwa na hayaluna vao vafumani mikwa kapakele vakala kuvata mikwa yengwi ya kupira kayona Luka 14:2.
Did you know that road safety is a shared responsibility? Become a good fellow walker by staying alert, using designated crossings, and making sure you're visible when it is dark, at dusk, and dawn. Let us unite to reach 0 deaths and serious injuries, because together we can. This message was brought to you by the National Road Safety Council.
Good fellow driver, good fellow walker, good fellow driver, good fellow passenger.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional, and church events. And basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Lwazwela pili kona kuli nako ki 12 o'clock na hupola limozale ingenisake na kwa skolo mwabona kwa choto vani vapira kwa choto kapavesa vapirire kwa choto mwamu kwa wanu wenzi fahali a choto kuna nili ntolo kwani kuna wili ntolo zeo kiri ntolo zeziliza ahulu wireless kuli hofita kapa hoza maya mwamu kwa fala choto ukatereza wireless kapa walata kapa holati wireless ukayotwa ona kuli mitengi yani nekuliranga ahulu wireless mi na hupola kuli kuna nifasi ntolo fune kuyezanga linsato fita fera fateng kinako ya makanda ya kafa mi mkauta kuli nako ki 1 o'clock mi ki makanda ya kafa nako ni nako mune nifiteranga fasi ntolo fo chwale fahanto vulera kuli nako ki 12 o'clock muhopolo waka uire ona kwani kwa asili mosani hane nutwanga wireless kona kuli nivulezi kuli kachino nutambola tava kwa kutokwa misevezi mahala vavancha mi tava ekitava eluziva kaufela luna kai kuli misevezi hakusana misevezi kuifumana sekukataza hakusana ingeli limozale fune kuyezanga kuli mutu asazwa fera kwa skoses pahami kapa uzwa kwa lilimozani neli Polytech kapa uzwa kwa Polytech kapa uzwa kwa UNAM kapa uzwa kwa college misevezi nesa katazi nekusina zanza kuinanga mwa hai dilimo inge nakoni kuli kufumana musevezi fa wako na kuina nevile lilimo zeke talizo mwa hai hakuna musevezi kuna kuli misevezi seikataza mahala vavancha mi vakensa kuli misevezi seikataza mahala vavancha vavangwi kele vaepo mana mama yemo akuvata mikwa ya kupira kayona mi haluvulera mikwa ya kupira kayona luvulera mikwa ya kukala tu business luvulela tava ya kukala tu business chwale puzo kie. Kakuli ni nani puzo yen vata kuli mwalave. Kana ona tu business to. Kitu business to vatu vakona kuvulela kuli vakona kupilela tengi nako yetelele kapachwani. Lwazi vakuli na hayalu na italimani ni palo ye pahamia hulo ya kutoka misevezi mahala vavanja. Meri kandeleli inzi mapampili ya luna ya la muvulo. Inzi mapampili ya luna ya la muvulo. Haiva kuli mkavata kwe pale la luna. Kuli mutu isise. Mkavata kwa vala masiku waka kuli. Mwendi mana alisakuna ni maa lovile nsilozi haifu kumusa lova kanga. Chwale mwakona kuli fumana. Mini vulelanga kuli haiva kuli. Hamusika kala kale kufumana pampili ya luna. Mwakona kufumana pampili ya luna mahala. Hakuna mashilingi ya mlifa. Kuvona fela mwalumelali ngusa kwa nombolo. Pe nombolo yani ipatire kwa nani ivoni. Mi nombolo yo. Hase mwive ile famu hala wamina. Mwalumelali ngusa kwa WhatsApp. Mi asam laho. Moka fumananga pampili ya luna ya makande. Halalu mwaviki. La muvulo, la vulalu, mane haisi kuisa la vutano. Kona kuli vavancha hamo chwalo ni machazi va marita vaza sfumu sana ha. Kibona baba fitsa maikuto wa akuli. Palo ya vavancha baba sa sevezi manaha yaluna kere pahama ahuluri. Kona kuli misevezi ye kona kubapala siemba. Kwa kuli sasfumu sana ha atokwa litava zengata hulu insingi kuikeze za fera vatiri kona kuli baba fama ikuto va vulezi kuli kuna ni vutokwa wa kuiseza ahulu muhupulo kwa vuchaziva vo vutokwa hala vuchaziva va kuiseza pili mayemo naha nisifumu hamocho ni kuvona kuli lipisinisi zazwe la pili ni kukona kuvona kuli vava kala li business kapa vava na li business kuna nivo nolo kukona kufumana masherengi hava tokwa masherengi hamochwalo ni kuvona kuli lika zeva lekisa zina ni vatu vava leka ona likazani. Kona kuli vava nchamana hanamibia vasazwe la pili kutalimana ni matata. Matata akufumana misevezi. Kono ni hai kesi na hani vulezi kuli. Kuna ni babangu bese bakalile tu business. Tuakupile la tengi. Bakensa kuli misevezi haivona hali. Hakuna misevezi. Kiboma ngi baba ni koveta. Ensha. Monitisa za masherengi.
Sawa?
Monitisa za masherengi.
Mwendi.
Hao, noti mwendi bopita hao.
Murumere mulio.
Murumere neno mbuti marishari.
Marishari.
Serikali?
Shema juba.
Kinayo.
Shema juba.
Kinayo kele ni okuta.
Ni matangenezo.
Nensori kuno mikande kila fe alipiho za uvango kizeze ngata fezi, Vato va yepola ya manaha ya mina mwanzi vikulikini.
Tawa.
Itala?
Matala tisama pronsi, ni pla.
Kone sika ufela una lwashu fatala vopita.
Yasmina mwenzi munofu.
Shole hani, haki kulitala ya hao no sikone yesu andala kuvula ya hulu. Kone ezi eza hulu. Kufita tala.
Mane tala, watu wangata masuwaka. Ya vula chwa.
Hawa.
Mina munofu maitoboha. Kanga nyani sinafu. Kono vana vaeza kulia. Kwa wabili wabawa. Wane. Ya Teresa haitoboi.
Haitoboi. Kono tala yenzika inika evo pita. Nitiluri.
Kono fase za mengekera moko namo.
Tala itenifa. Tala itenifa. Kono mwendiki niteva vulelanga kuli, luna avasalitezi kupepa, lina kozeta hazikata tafala hulu. Lina kozeta hazibona lizikata tafala hulu, chole hanizivi kuli falwa pepa kapalwa siya fela.
Mama siya fela.
Male lo siya fela kinitika kuli, Mupilo vutulile ndate.
Siya fela.
Lo siya fela? Kiniti mo vole lo siya fela kakuli hazikonali. Sha.
Mugazi kwanza lulio lafa.
No nisingi na yawe.
Ako nakweka eza kuli tarakele ngatafa. Saibuweza kuli minakhala nakwe muhuli sachwale.
Yeni.
Todo kuvola todo to kwakelo.
Eve mauza niona kela atola fa insingilishe. Mauza mavere zitulile. Kusavulela omaere yo noshikandela yo. Zitulile likachole luna lo siefera. Ndibona kuli kuvani vavasika pepa kale lo siefera kakuli azina ukona ha. Mwende muvuso hao kakala kululifa kakuli. Mwabona kuli muvuso sonela kutahani muhupulo wakwatisa palo ya vatu manaha. Chole haba boni kuli bakengisa amanyando kakuli ngeli kandelele nensweli kunovala fa. Vavancha sabasweli kuno fetuhela kwa tu business to tuinyani bakengisa kuli hakuna misevezi.
Hakuna completely hakuna lole.
Hakuna misevezi kona kuli. Hakusina misevezi chwana. Muhupula kuli muhupulo wa kuli ni pepe vana ukakona kukukenela. Chole kamba muvuso otahani muhupulo wa kuli vani baba vata kupepa. Baba saipo maneli muvuso kami holisanga chwana kapo kami tusanga chwana kapa lwa pepa.
Inge libya mone inezi.
Kamba vata hani mulelo wani. Kamba nelukawa kena nevele kwa 5 million very soon.
Kutapa vai playa ngene. Nume so maswele monjeje manubon.
Hani sepuli mama sule bateni kakuli hani liseza mhala wabona fani neoya kwa chaja. Baba wala vile ne babula uya kwa chaja. Mwende bonje njema. Kuna nini baba mbaterezi baba salizi kono batereza livizo labona kivo stali. Yeni.
Barumere sema juba katu tompera. Katu ngata bali plano zeo kinzi kai.
Kikwa? Noti kwa haya. Kwali bakazenge kwa. Kona kwa baipola ile.
Nakuliwa abali simani nakweka pagi malova kapagiliri fani. Keren tereza kwa radio ngewa vihakuli uti kapa yona ni maloma kapagi mangi muwa na haya niwa ezali likanyi kapagi neli fani.
Bani bene balwane lalicho. Kwaka, haki kwa karasibegi.
Manana nguyo ngasa stina peto tamat mato.
Neri stina kapa neri tipa.
Lichwe something like that to na tomato.
Mana kilona likandeleri swana vene balwane lalicho.
Ne balwane la. Sante pa ne licho fa na ko intro ifumana fa mama kande. La toba la pati ya kuli yo mnyani sa yo ngali chwe ngutona ta yo mu mato.
Hani sibika pa likandeleri swana. Kono kuna likandeleri boni ne balwane lalicho.
Kimaina mwana nayo.
I think unani haki yani ngona ni haki 16.
16 man.
Kiena kanti kilona likande mwendi. Nige ki 16 yani ma grade 7.
Kitara ka fera yo.
Patsa balwane lalicho.
Kitara. Mwendio ngata chao. Yazo kibaki. Magni mai kwa wana mbaya sa usara kuliyo kibana yumo. Mina lifasi weza ngita tafanga.
Ni kimama nyaba kena kwa.
Johnny.
Oh, kanti muteni.
Wa feri hizo hili deruli.
Bati kutis Johnny.
Esibona bali beyanga ko nali solizo leo.
Bali beyanga kombina ye muchonanga. Isimina harmonizing nane analyze.
Faka ke Roma sule.
Opita mulumere.
Mulumere tatu.
Sari yalo kopanyanga yo malazi yalo kawanyize.
Esikona kona bavula kuli musala so kunyala mavali.
Kuyeza hawangi musali hanyala mavali popita.
Kono naze.
Wa? Kuti vana kivona vanyala fela mavali vanosi.
Akubazi bakwa control.
Vanyala vasali mane.
Namaloba ngwali ngolo. Namaloba ngwali ngola morning nalako nyala bazikaba nabako ala basidi hi. Ntindile kuzona ze. Na,
nimivulele tava yemwe. Hanifumane hi kwa ma text message. Kuna niwene nitolokela mane nivona. Hamoni vatira kwa ma text message. Hamoni fumani. Mwendi kwa WhatsApp. Kwa WhatsApp ninzi on 24/7 mani fumanako. Kwa ma text message butata kikuli. Ne vileli zazilani hamoni ngolela kuli. Ne mngozi kuli hello. Morning.
Mzuire.
Neli mina munno se ne mwingozi morning yani. Chane nifumananga butata wakuli. Nikunolekanga recharge. Hanifumani ma message. Foku mahani kafu manali ngustakilo na felo na leo li nosi marizazi. Chane kwa ni tatafalelanga hulu kungolanga ma message. Ni kwa WhatsApp, kwa WhatsApp ni teni.
Kimazazi.
Kimazazi kinayo. Munikande kinayo.
Alasa ngana moto asaza kuleka cheko. Azazila bangata ho.
Mukandeke kaufela za muniswalezi kuzwalizazi lale haleluinzi hamo munikandekele notwe.
Vira mangata dipulo ni po neze ngata ho. La kuchona seni kakupuzali pulo ngata.
Aba hale musikanilize za king.
Nari kalavo ni kuzakenizo.
Aba hale musikanilize za king.
Ipoka puzo kuri fa musari yo fa uyere. Hapo kuri ni foreign ngere wo France. Hapo na tuyape maybe aonso fa.
Hale musikani foreign ngere king. Nombolo yake tena hale musikani foreign ngere king.
Mwanzo watu mwele Mwanzo kuri fa mutoya hapo kwa ndani mufita. Kwa sababu mtoto zao ni 1 week fa mtoto banu ndani. After 1 week get some life. Surupa kweza lazikama ingati.
Neni milaize kuli niyo kuta.
Milaize minabanyi. Bale tipilalo foki ya kuli. Kona hana muzo wa dano muzo wako fitatu kuzatu mwanto makuchola tohukumu. Apo muri sinde tapa ni biteni.
Kaba na monelize eze neni kamitokela. Vopita ni bonje njemane bafoni. Nginese ni batokela uli mane na ataha. Ni kaba ni mfoni ngirefera.
Okay.
Wopita
Petro kile pama.
Yenwe.
Viki yeferile fanesi kaba?
Ipame hape manto ma isata hape yengi price. Ni sata yengi price. Yakuli kubona kuli watu wami na ba. Kile waekeza kwa litongoka zabona vairani. Kuna Masaziwa mbaka kafoka kale rapo. Sibaiza kuli hainya ni fera vavona kuli pava Amerika sibata kusuterera vakambekera fateni. Nikola vairani vana nitoho tata mina.
Ni vairani vana nitoho tata
Vana nitoho tata.
Mane vana nitoho tata.
Yakuli onafa nene utuafa it's like Vava support wa vairani ma Yemen, something like that. Vana sepe kapaki sepe sakata sepe samangsa. Sakata something like that.
Sakata
Volare mate. Mautis volare mate mendiki fogo 6 samweze. Acho que uma sepe. Kuna ulikawa fera mwani kikuweza kuli hakuna kuzamaelera roli. Esifo target ya kuli abalati America kuli ingerere nto mu kama iswa Iran. Akuli kama iswa Iran kia kuli va fumane kuli the end of the day akusana muzamaisi mwa Iran. Wa form wa old regime. Then va choosing like mova moniba izeze ma Ukraine. Abato choosing to your president wa Ukraine. Vaket vaziva nyakaeza shwanya akena kawin. Kare nani va Iran kone vasono eza preserve yani kuliska eza ala.
Mwela na ukona hawa.
Ana kona hawa.
Mwela na ukona hawa. Cheo wanala Iran fa. Kuri Mareka siyari naze mwikulizi kuno shimba oil kwale ngezi na ngezi alishimba shee na batoka pachwa.
Mano na foni vona antereza ka foreign minister pleo ya hai. Ni vona kuli tabane ni bakalire kayona so batakuli tiselezo chwale. Akuli sepeka fese fitafans kuno lifa.
Sorry for my million yao.
Agora kele babona kuli kanti lokao leno lolipatire kero topa to hachwa.
Yaba punya mkoto mumu.
Mani yo kumkotiro lo itolezi fa osa swetinga. Kula fa que se pesa necessita mate. Akuna kula fa. Seto va akene mashere, malevi kafera na kafera akenerez. Suba wala muri kaza basi safanga ndarez.
Ese fori tumero yawe lewa takupanga de baba anto. Nima de baba na baba mai baba o manziba. Kiakuli kuve nima ni into ni sepezo zikuno olifa side ya ni ama neba ni wabona ni side ya Iran. Ni bari pa azikena zilifa kwa Iran azizwa zilifa kwa umuskwana.
Akuli Omani kwani
Omani
I sika yao isona ngezi ma Iran hapi. Nikona mbora kuli ni hava luana muti historia ya ntoa Omani motofera ya Iran. Nisona ngezi bone ba ona sese ma Ukraine ni Russia. Kwa sese inzi fani. Sese ma Taiwan ni China.
Ni China.
Yakuli history una ritali marivuka we already told kuli Taiwan is ma China. Korova America vata kukena matendo kuli Taiwan kina hai kemezi fani. Ismaz wana misunga mwa iteranga. Esa China fani kamba wakenika leva America nikusieza nikulundurula nukalaze zenja.
Zenja Esa pa muri kanami na vopita. Sabata ukena pedi mwa England. Magilend sorry.
Mange
Era Donald Trump.
Yani mani uliangale sasa ziva sisieza
ma Greenland.
Mane historia Greenland neli ya second from agenda za haya karaka. Icho sibatomu oninga hanya ni ba France ni bamanyi ba ni batomu oninga. To kuza hape kwa fanya to karaka yani ya mampa ma France sala watu. Kuna mshautanga.
Chane tabani neli anite.
Vana tuanga vako shiva.
Niye na nayo batengwa bachembere bani fera balatahulika.
Vana nisabona basali vana. Yesi nona.
Wapita.
Gela serva ikaento. Kwa tino omizo.
Anafaa bafitire matasa bridge. Network ya mlene gese haya la tuko fita matasa bridge. Ofita matasa bridge up me hanzi bikuliking.
Tele kona problem ese tsakole fuel wapeka ile kupahama. Kona kule tempo ya kule fuel ikutemwe kabe vile mwa normal. Ari se pikuli ilani katuela kuli kaulo yo ivete njolo hape. Kali bakaka kule as long as matarifu sawa abateni awa akabaka ni warifu sawa ilani kuli sari sepa zeta ma kwa side kwani. Ikabe vyote ma insurance ari sepa zani wala kabe apahami. Mimi insurance hapa hama matarifu sawa kake warifu kwa kama fela zozi hapa end user. Mina chama kwa kate profa pa filling station. Kimina watoli fela ona macheje sawa kama kana nao.
Wapita.
Sokora kweza abati.
Manu kaba mauta kule hapa kala kulifa ma sene ulifa fa service station fa kapa ma wale kai nerero na chwao. Na kai nerero na chwao kitakuli kwani basi nyero. Yakula kwani sera. Muzibe kuli na hanina haiva fita. Muzibe kuli bali fanga. Na hanina haiva fita. Zaiza hakikumendi kwa fa ko bala tachwa Kulambala kuli mami seto mula zama ingira fita mo. Just like a flyer is kuli iyo pumanya mseto. Dale msa kuli luzwa kwa lu ya kwa. Wanafanya baadhi za kale kuli eto kile hivi fani tulezi fani.
Mimi bupira butulire kale famina.
Butulire.
Jole roga pira chan.
Lukaziria. Banana bani balako za sono balonga sa sono kota.
Sasa ro kota?
By Sunday fani ba sono kota.
I think in it banana ba hanska ba vona mazazia.
Ba sono balonga man ba sono kota.
Sasa ro bakutse mama ibambuso.
Wala bana hayabona.
Eba kibana hayabona bakayo kota ba.
Kala zivi agreement fani kulika bachwangi. Ni bodi chwangi mifumani chwangi bodi wote kundi era zisize na nidi.
Haniska ivona bodi yo. Wala ni talime. Namibia not Namibia vopita. Alo vona. Hapa mama sode basari kuno Alexa ngivani fekwa mali. Alo vone. Mina mo Ivan John.
Let me go. Kuti vai ma bodi ka fera.
Vai zefa, baba sori kulexa. Que vou pita, kapag mama sori. How? Nani no pala ko kimina vou pita, mo sori kuno Alexa. No ta fate $100. Kimi na ba seri kulexa kanti?
Yo ya tire batashere tire.
Asitaba za teni.
Yala ta mo bantu, eso se re voy a dar fo. Hablamos de cuál somos sobre ta ka volava.
Tala inzi kaini. Vopita mina muvuleze kuti na zwisizema board members va Namibia haki Namibia kina Namibia Airports Company.
Airport Company. Company na size malipo.
Ni ki Namibia Airports Company board of directors.
They were former Namibia van.
Oh, never kwa Namibia.
Ninda muamona.
How?
Muamona transporter. Neti.
Hape. Ani sema mwendo kuna ni mafosa abaeze.
Wala kuna mafosa abaeze.
Kono kuti bali kola bavuleze kuti no. Kuti the changes are aimed at ensuring continuity of operations while strengthening governance structures at the state-owned entity.
Agora basigiza ubushori kuti bunataho.
Namibia ne baijayivire Namibia. Hawa?
Agora batochekanga ni baba basaizi retrenchment kapana ni retrenchment va very kafera va kafera va tisize promise wa kuliva I think kola kola va ikalezi kwa akona koni kuna ntonia hoy ina va ize va mula kuli lexwe kaze kava mashere ni an abantu va ize retrenched va very kiva ikola kuli va size maskolo taxes tuna Corona valile la kulivo president va resenta vet fatent. Sasa kuna kulia esimuzo lo mchembe abaiterezeo.
Avayo kuzane bana. Mfana chwa.
Planning a trip from the coast to the north? Then travel with Intercape. Safe, dependable, and affordable with over 50 years of trusted service. From the 31st of July 2026, experience our new Walvis Bay to Otapi and Okahawo via Oshakati route with convenient stops in Swakopmund, Arandes, Usakos, Karibib, Omaruru, Kalkfeld, Ochivarango, Otavi, Tsuneb, Oshivelo, Omothia, Onyanya, Onankali, Ondangwa, Ongwadiva, and Oshakati. Enjoy 50 kg of free luggage with your journey. Book your ticket at your nearest Intercape office on the Intercape app or call 081-950-2100. That's 081-950-2100. You can also visit our Intercape office at the June Mall Office Bay for bookings and inquiries. Intercape. Safe, dependable, and affordable.
Ni muniswalira hansika kavona kapangaliko kani.
Hapa kabona kuliangana niko na sawa.
Kanyi?
Kapangaliko kaka sautwali andika.
Oh, hamsika kautana kaita hanezao.
Kabona ngeka kafeli beti.
Wopita mnarisha uteni. Kika pangaliko ka Intercape. Moya moyo kwela kwa Intercape. Manene belena na hapa nitabela fa tabaya bona yani yakulibana nika toilet mahali mwana. Bona tabela yani. Kauli hani nwingi mezi mamusipiliwo. Hani nwingi mezi et all hani yakwangweze.
Niti za phosphate zatakuta.
Za phosphate mining nizivoni, hamuvoni. Nizivoni bapampirie. Kuti fishing, phosphate mining can coexist.
Chabona to mchembeke vai hana yo.
Manesna babaleskele butai kona hali.
Niliwata kule meza kya kuweza ntuma experiment hapo na.
Mane bahanile kakuli. Ese na hopla kuli lipatiso zene ziyezizwe fani. Nezifumani kuli phosphate mining haikona hali kakuli. Ese phosphate mining muyo ye paluli fanto.
Esikona nini mivulea niluyeza unakuli. Hakuna za utene tirefate za kusabuli ziba trofu mana diamond fone ba yeza kazeo. Nukuzui sa phosphate nuka kwa teni diamond. Kiyo hape sekuta.
Kono ne bai hanire hanisepikuli yakona. Mwendi yakona kukona halaka kuli. Ese ma diamond akulovera kuli sasweri kukutela mamula hova kengisa ama diamond abaseri kunoyeza ama lab grown diamonds. Kona kuli ma lab grown diamonds asweri kuunga musika. Chele kubona hali ma diamonds aba fumana aba kuyeza maini kuyeza chani aba yepanga
kulafa
aba lafanga kubona hala kuli musika wateni hakero kutela aluma mlao. Chele mwende haba vulela cholo kuli babata kuyolisa ma diamond kukala kuyezanga phosphate mining mwende
mane si fertilizer yani.
Phosphate mining fertilizer.
Fertilizer. So kona kulikona yani ni batile niyo nafanya number 1. So wala kuliko mchembe ndi by that time nilipo vo mean for trade. Bazi ba nende kulisere feza ziskama nomba utu ba hakana. Ndio ba tembe ba ngato makolo bakeni.
Habayo kwalishe yavan.
Kola kuliwenoka to bapuma for something which he knows already. Alinakuzamayela. Auzizi kono vai haneka auzizi kapavaka chamupo kono bona kuli vai haneka.
Tava ya volukato ya muivon. Manyazo le famoya. Haba pomehile chana famoya kafela vana king. Piriwo lu 14 la pili. Lunge kapomolonyana.
lipuranengelo wapumbwa eva tere ulikoni maondudu toingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngetashake ngeshefa omarudi dayoloka opone ushendife nawa nokumona oijamo ili nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Ensha.
Neti.
Nene mivuza kuli tava ya volukato ya muivoni nji.
Meivoni. Tena zifo kulizikali zikairudi kulizofita faleza uyewe sivulerwa.
Hali vapati kwa pano yo kwa na hane vaezanto. Kwa na hane ikalaka.
Yesa kedi mateni yabo na kuli hali kazi za marewa uzidi. Moi neza to watu yapie kwa moi tosha ndakero na chao. Aito bonsa kuli sena na musero ruli kwa fa kutanga utata kwa.
Kwa fa kutanga utata chale ani utisi kuli chale fa utata.
Pero na inza no sana kunali la tele chao. Kwa fa kile kumera misero focha nagi watakulwana ruli.
Boloka tone babanga banose wanafani. Esina kuna nini vato.
Wakato momo ndo kuna kampeni ngabano. Mali totora mwa kulianga. Ayeni sakota inge mutiali angani banos eza mkopa. Semera otan sola mo kulianga. Liba yezo bakota.
Awo.
Watu wasi tabaiza kampeni banos iskena puma. Yaba zino ukabula uniti. Angula neva ali mungu neva unaenda waziwa ukitanga ferengo wako wakati wapate.
Okay, halu bone. Kauli nitani mezili kando fa. Nitani mezili kande. Kona kuli. Mani kande mo. Kuna ni vava kulovera. Hani na uvavisa fa mavizo avana. Kuna mavizo avana ateni. Kona kuli kipatu vavaveli. Vava enzi mari kande mo.
Vule la kuli newspaper ule zikale. Kamuna makosa ni.
Okay. Kona kuli. Mwapa mpili moko vihewa kuli. Vo Secretary General, vo Alex Linyando, ni vo Regional Coordinator, vo Allen Mwilima. Kuti vaize kuli, kapa va fileri kuluvero, kwa makande kuli. Kuti se kuna ni valifera maskua. Growing breakdown of internal democracy and accountability within the party. Mi voveli vamona vavulera kuli Linyando vavulera kuli kuti valukato vatulokala kuchincha asamlaho NDP haitokala kufumana masherengi asamlaho akuwina spula sene vawinire mwa ndo ya milao. Kona kuli sina halu ziba kuli kopano ni kopano ifiwanga 1 million haifumana spula sidisini. Kona kuli kuya kama nzo abana vaize kuli kuti kopano isari kukala kufuna masherengi kona afuni vakalezi kuchincha volukato mikuti volukato seri kuchincha nutokala kuva dictator masilozi king muhatereri yes. Kona kuli Linyando vazoela pili kuvalera kuli Baeteleli bavangwe makopano musevezi wavona kikuvona kuli masherengi akopano aseveliswa hande. Miva kuluvela kuli vahanisizwe mata au akukona kuyeza musevezi wo. Kukona kuvona cholo hamoho nibupaki bovusipeza kuli masherengi asweli kuseveza chwani ni kuli masherengi ali 10 kivukai. Okay. Kona kuli volinyando vavulela kuli mulao wako pano yavona constitution ya pati yavona itoloka kuli mweteleli secretary general hamocho ni treasurer kivona vava swanela kuva ni kivona vava lomelelwa kukona sapala silozi kivona ma signatories kwa yes kivona vazamaisa alipulukelo za panka mokuna ni mashiringi ako pano mivaize kuli kuti vo trejara ne vazwisizwe mi sekusiala vona volukato ni vo vice president vo zita ndopo kuetelela kapa kuzamaisa sikwama sako pano. Kona kuli bazwela pili kulovela kuli kopano ya NDP kuti ifumana mashiringi alikana 1.4 million Namibian dollars silimo kuzwelela kwa muvuso. Kona kuli mashiringi ya aviwa mwali nako za silimo zani zeni vulelanga kuli silimo sina li nako zene makotas. Kona kuli nako ilingwi kulifiwanga 350,000. Kona kuli vafitizali pilalo za kuli vaeteleli vavangwi mwako pano vainzi mwali fifi kwa masherengi mwa sevelisezwanga miha vazivi kuli masherengi ya kutasweli kuno seveliswa chwani. Kona kuli volinyando vavolezi kuli kuti volukato pasweli kuno severisa ongoing constitutional review to avoid accountability. Kuti hava kuteki mulao wavona vona vengi volukato kuti nako ni nako hava vavulelela nikuva supeza mulao one vaezize vona vengi kuti vavulela kuli kuti mulao unzi mwamulelo wakunchafazwa mikuti ona tava yoetisa kuli basike vava ni vuikalavelo. Mivolinyando vazola pili kuvolela kuli kele kuva ni kusava utwana kapa kukalile kusava ni kutwana mahalavu na samula hakuvavuza kuli samula hakuvavuza kwa mamashiringi akopano. Mniswalele kona kuli kuti volukato kuti hava vavuza kuti seli kunyema mi asamulaho pili woni hotole. Kuti volukato kuti seli kunyema mi asamulaho kuti seli kuviza mkopano wa putako ni vava mvaeteleli mwakopano. Miona mkopano nele mkopano notices neva izo ulela kuli vavata kuzwisa volinyando fans pola savona savu secretary general samngoli kona kuli vomwilima vavulela kuli kapa vomwilima vatolokile kuli kusalumelelana kose kusweli kuvatengi mwa kopano ya NDP kisi supo ni vale fila maskwae vomwilima vaeze describe kuli key collapse of internal democracy within the party. Mi vaeze kuli NDP inani vatu vavangata hulu hamochalo ni vene vakalile ona kopano ye and ma structures from branches ha mocho ni ma constituencies mani haisi kuyofita fa regional level kono kubona hala kuli ma key decisions asaswele kunoyezwa kimuntu ali mumwe kuli decision is just done by one man
vasaini mango haya ni avona vanosi
ninge vasainzi vanosi mwavona kona tavene nivulera yekuli kwa utwahala kuli NDP kimbututu wavona mwavona kuli NDP kimavene vampepile kimwana avona hakuna yailatola tavayo kona vasonela kutalima hamocho ni tavaya kuli mwana nayo vene vatusize kuli atohula kone kutofita fasa inzi kivomanya mwavona okay kona kuli mamwili mamazola pili kuvulera kuli kuti kunani vahulu vambaeteleli makopano ya NDP vao ne vaizoeza confront volukato nilipuzo zefitelela zelishumi kwama mulao wa kopano yavona hamochalo ni vavangwi vaeteleli mwakopano mikuti vomweeteleli kapa volukato na vaizo alava kuvulera kuli kuti vona vainzi fahali mwa mulao above the law kona kuli vomwilima vazola pili kuvulera kuli volukato vasili kunoeza nepotism kuli mwana volukato kiena yaseveza msevezi wa human resource amocho ni logistics mivavulera kuli ona msevezi ye kimisevezi ye sweli kunoyezwa mwa kopano ya NDP mivazola pili kukuluvela kuli kuti volukato vanani vatusi vavang'ata ma personal assistants vavaholiswa mwa pokoto yavona mikuti vavambalifiwa mwa masherengi a NDP kona kutili motikala zepeli zeseveliswa kivolukato ni mwana avona wa msizani sina hava ize kili motikala zeseveliswa kivatu vavazwala palili limwe nikona kuli kinako kona kuli vamwili mavazola pili kukuluvela kuli established party committees are being replaced by structures personally selected by Lokato. Mautwa kuli when the party had limited funds, existing committees received little financial support. But after funding became available, Lokato began personally selecting new working committees. Kona kuli vamwili mavazola pili kufanilipila lelo kwa mashereng kuli hakuna tuso yefiwa kuvani vavainzi fafasi ma grassroots structures kuli likupoza masherengi hang'ata kuti hava kupa masherengi amainyani hafiwa kapafoko mkuti vafiwa ngafila ma explanation kona kuli kuti sanga hulu vutata kuli vakone kuyeza misevezi yavona mwaskiliti mi vafina mtala wakuli hava kupa 20,000 yeo tikona kuyopumiwa high school yema fa 2,000 mi vaize kuli likopano se mkele vakala misevezi fa kuli ama mapatis kele vakala kweza mobilize
ni bonne liste yanto ama campaign wana basona kala
wana ba NDP
Brazil liste ona mosa vinyanti area zenga tali bakazeni Brazil
chona babakaya kateni kwali bakako kiboma nyaba habona abasalumela nani batu babona
mana anezivi momukaezeza alatukunyaza olukato banosi kono nibona ba statement yabona yawo twahalalole kono baisaka ofini olukato anezivi momukola kufumanira olukato kuli baize clear kwa side yabona Then I know you are not going to be the only media. So probably like kwa koni Teresa ngara mwendo wako baswa nela kamso. Albana abaliye bana baswalanga batuli.
Nena nombolo.
Nena nombolo yabo.
Hampe yo ya ngola. Yo ya ngola kuli NBC Ngwanyi FM fa program yaka kimanyo.
NBC.
Kuti NBC Ngwanyi FM.
Asu kuyeni matoko la masinezi.
Okay, ungozi ni lingo salelingwi kivona vomuswe o Sydney ape kinghanisa akuteki vatu kivona vomuswe o Sydney kuti mota za NAC NAC King Namibia Airports Company it was favorable and nepotism that those board of directors did, because if those cars depreciated to a value of 5,000, it actually means even a cleaner of the NAC was able to afford. But that was not the case. Hence, the cars, all of them were prioritized to the board directors only. Don't you conclude that it's corruption? Vamos ver o que é que corruption. Kampamela mvesi kuli corruption wapita.
But corruption is there kuli mota zeo ziba kuli abo msofo. Kibona bangi bene bazile kile
bona venki bana bene bazile kile chale yo ki corruption.
Yo ki corruption and happiness ka akuna bene bazile evaluate kazeo and probably the mutu ena baizefera haya kusuza kulinge kuli ikakereza tu baziba kuli utungi kufuwa baizikuwa that's not even the only case. Maybe there's a lot of cases involving this issue.
Tala ni kuli hape haluko ni kuvulera kuli kona ali bakalele tse kuli bone kundi bavazwise
batiri those are just additional kulika
ni haluko ni kuvulera chwalo
kolonio na case yona eva vulera yone izwe mention ma newspaper iten taba iten twalukute kuvolukato fa volukato amizivi mwabona Zuma fa vulera fa mwana hai seri deputy president kena salatera ndata
ma pati ya Zuma
yanwa sizak yamkoto sizwe Fionali Tavazani, lunava tuwali baba. Hebe kulikini teba bulera bomuli manibona.
Nebo lunyando.
Lugai bulera kuli mashere nao. Wikalavero wa mashere nao. Sikwe watu wabalao anu twafoba saina.
Baba swanela kusainanga. Sona kubabalalo. Chwale fa kiva vaveli. Baba saina fa kivona fera volukato ni vozita vo vice president.
Make it easier. Vacho mengona va twana lojibona bao. Kwa vali vaske vali vala kulipati yani stage ne vaizu kuona, this stages vaizu kuona fa. It was not easy. Kavo na fera vanosi neske yakona. Sena mune vanyandera ngafani vanosi. Kono vatu va utwisa kulia neva neva utwisa ni hani emifabaro banswalele vatu na utwisa kulia niko ninzi kwa party kuyo uzwa kwa high period ubone kuli ukana nwachwa nina vani koroto na favolkato kono baske baiza kuli shere na fitire nilikuwa na neva muyao wabona kero nanwa yani kira iti yabo bakora kuyeza zecho Kono kuikalovero ukaba tengi nako ba ECN bakaeza kulisa batakubona ko mashereni
sebezanga chwani ayanga nikahule sizani hakuna kozi yanga zatokwa hala
zatokwa nako yeo ni zako zikatokwa otherwise neva kumenda bala kuba market aba mameli ela kwa mazi ne ene kweza kuli pati kuifitsa fa family issue family to favoritism whatsoever muzile kuli pati haina kulia haikakataze hawo wapi kunyanda zaza kweza kuli anzivi bazive kuli witomboli wikalabelo fasika sexual wabuto kwaho wanafaa babuza bahabo bona kuli waisu shere ni chwana lwatalo kulisere shere chwana ile kai mwendi wala baziva kuli kukenanga bukaisina mwa bla kuli kakota kukenanga 300 something thousand
350
kwa kulivona ni sipola sabona sama parliament yani kipate package yabo na itulesani
niyo na yani ki package yabo na yani itulesani kipe yabo ne baho
kambe kina bwana bakaiza kuliba mtwenduka kwa package yabo na pili ngatabali kazima batakweza baske baanga mapati kukutsa kwa personal issues fani bakati ya kubona kuli pati yabo ne ahola first haika hola kwa sena ni mautu atire uli mwende yani bakaiza kuliangeli no uchwalo kwa mbona neva robeski to storia robeski nako ni sapanga nezo sama shero na nanto kwa kweza sasa encounter kule aziwe kule mashere na ni aireka na yo peto kile fosa Kile muka tubatie baske baeza kuli mashere na bachinje bati he must remain humble until that time hakawaka wala kunibwa na kini pasi bazama hand isi ta kuweza kulimani kona bakala chori ndaba makampeni aba batakuliba marali za batakuliba hizo bakaiza cho imanya kaweza rali tarafa ena kwa makampeni mibulebo nitwala fukusinyero kama shere
kwa makampeni kutoka ala mashere ngamangata maswe
wala fukusinyero kama shere ni ruli kulimiserezi zamae na pati zilava ngona fakona mbabola kulibalekanga batu kulikazama chabo naba kasinya chwala ukapa anzimbo kapa foba anzimi skeda kulera paspa masabona kono ebo kulikola mwenezi yeo kono nibona baikala bere very high yo hande au likona uketirwe kulikuda nseja kuda secretary misumwe melawe mineo ya buto kwaho kuri haba yo habulera yo mwawute atereze yasa utisize abuze Chabaske baeza kuli mwende na kweva kava alaba kuli pati yeki yaka bali bala kuli pati ya batu
na hakuna pati ya mtu alimungwi ayo kame pati kapa ya mtu alimungwi anisepi kuli kapa nevere spola kapa steni mandi ya
mina wane ya bafo minganga kuziba kuli kuda ni mutu yaka toina fateni kama kuli basi for minganga fali kusiona chwa do you think you can discover na halan sika iza bati right neku tumela kunto kujoba mpada toba nano hanyani support yani ruli neli ya buto kwa ruli kona itse kuli manifa but fraud tsa kuli NDP koroka fera zoba para kuanzira pa sorry kubulea chwa yakule kala mwazi neza ima for side yao kwa ni wana waweze clear kwa side yao na ruti kumendi zoba bulea mwenda kizona When the movie nina kumuva buze abapatele abapatele barekonda fati kutevya to be that
nika bavuza lutwe
nakuli otherwise ulikola masibasinyeza mashere nabona akona ukuvya uli mota zeperi mwamvi yabo zapati nasola kuziva kuli li mota zekizapati nakapati zamani mauti leti tibi kuli pati ya sirerezo ive period ya wala number 1 yeo vana varu vapete rinzi ni bona likaza sitaka rinzi ni bona and mwana always vava inyandi vava iza kuli vakaweza zembe kumshemi wabona always kikusinya vana vao nona famu wabona nakaka upaka kusinyize kale kile kufosa it's much better mutu ya izi kwa hule niwe na kuli akusevereza haizeli kazi ze kondiri then kazazo kaluka. People, when you hear people complaining like this, they are willing to walk at all in discussion.
Ahululoli. Kapa bavilaile kapa ne bakakuza fana kusia kuli
Natoa share kwa rubare kozika at the end of the day. Kwa bazilo kuli onalitongo kozeo. Nisoko baezanto va kuba namwa piru kuba susweza kuli kuna se for size fani yemi fate looks. Sepaka la terma windu kumwa abayo kwa haya.
Alozi fa baba inzi kwa haya pa bateni mawindu ku.
Kono baita metava kwa mwenezi yeo bazilo kuli skwama bashere kona sinyanga mapatis. Kwa sisi batawuli ngani LPM. Mashere nakuliyo batakuba kuli nane kina munkai wantu. Uliva kuli hari lukala madisishi natanga kuna luweza chwanika kuyeza chwana luweza chwanika kuyeza chwana. Kwa kuti bashere na sata seriwe na saiza monitor seriwe na sabu kuli ye hai ye haya ye chwani obwezi bahabuwe. EFF enene batakuli ngana fani. Imani mvua kulikere ili ngana yani. Kono nazeo. Mashere ni fuafit.
Insinge mashere ngisha. Bali se bataba pepo hamo kona balwanira mashere.
Akuli tabela so kubya volka tokie. Tabeli kazepe. Sabona sikwama sapati. Sapati akisabona bati. Yo bayi kukula huo na chwa kuli sapati mashere akera mateni hakiabona. Kuyeza tunduroka fea za zebe palile mwa partizani kuli skonde. At least wana ntumota tutuveli. By next year wakafumana fast processing. Hape wakafumana mota tutuveli.
Kona ulitumota tutuveli kitua pati kaofela. Toto tuinzi mandi yavana. Nika alika kubabata nutu. Ni nani nombola yavana?
Mani muvavate muute.
Wapuza kapabala takutafa moe.
Mani wakawaka vule woka tuwa
ni abana butata.
Abana butata. Kicha kyabala ni wana kwikala bera kuli. Batula utekuli mwenzana bulera yana akizo na luli. Olwa hupuleta ba kuli isi na kama buza kuli mashere tisama pepa cho bozo no service mashere.
Ona bana bupake.
Dara bula kuli batwani toire batwa bani shwera muna bani eza. Batwa kale kale ngabakuyereza. Kikerezo niyo nona ko akunyaza fero ko niba na wasoro kwa kuli kikerezo ko ngore kuli This is actually there are tarea silikala chwana. Ati akasiya fa fast. Awale ni bakaiza kulikamba lila tayari likaka after 4 years. Watu na kao sisi nikole bakala fa.
Kona bakala shwa akisona seli musa bana sapirize.
Kole bakala fa. 4 years down the line I start never says I start kwa naka. Kutma shere peto sere zima poko mtu alimu.
Seri butata.
Ate wana despite by that time I took our partner is different kwa utwa. But in lakini vaseveza lazima mashere.
Nani kama kila ndali mapokola?
Mane ni masori vai mama training. Sisi mwana wale waswapo va.
Nali masori.
Kuna na sari waswapo va. Sopo examento va wana tao.
Vatu se vata kutokieza programa ya wana wapita kamso.
Mtusare vai kitembasi ngera.
Ni Jona. Bye bye. Enshangwe kamso vatereziva valatea kuna masichava maana lisasa likozo. Bye.
Lipuranengelo wapumbwa evatere ulikoni maondudu toingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana. Onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu konda doili nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamwili nawa ninge kwata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile komberewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081 270 3727 or the office number 083 2888 400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that doesn't have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
While you are busy enjoying your lunch, while you are busy having some times from 1300 hours, take time and listen to OTR News Bulletin.
On the Radio News Analysis, we go beyond the headlines. We don't just tell you what's happening, we ask why it's happening, how it affects ordinary Namibians, and what it means for the country's future. We examine the structures behind news, connect policy to people's lived realities, and bring in expert voices to make sense of where Namibia is heading.
You want to get into touch with global governance, global diplomacy, economic relation, trade, statistics, human and infrastructure development, and you want to see how policy planning and policy implementation is connected in Namibia, make time and listen to OTR from 1300 hours to 14:30 with Happy Juju.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to On the Radar News Bulletin with me, David Shombe. It's that time of the afternoon that we look at the affairs of business. We look at economic news, trade, and everything that affects our bread and butter. We are greeting you from your number one favorite talk radio station, Eagle FM Namibia. We are greeting policymakers, economic leaders, captains of industries, and developmental enthusiasts to come together and also look at the conversation. What can we do to make sure that Namibia developmental priorities are achieved, and also what is happening, especially within Namibian economic context. Today, we'll be looking at main conversation, especially looking at the financial policy statement. Where is Namibia economy going? Where is it standing? We'll look at the repo rates that was remained or was held to 6.75% in the next 2 months, especially looking at the statement of the governor of the Bank of Namibia, and to give reasonings to that context. From there, we'll also look at the conversation that is looking at the space bill, where the country is standing, and we'll be able to listen from the expert, especially where Namibia is moving toward the consultation that will lead to space science, especially when it comes to where the country wants to get into in terms of space technology. We'll be able to listen to Dr. Mudia at the public conversation that happened at the Commerce region today. From there, as part of the guest today, we'll be joined by Martin Saku, who is an economist and going to engage us, especially when it comes to Namibia economic policy, and also to look at the necessity of maintaining Namibian dollars pegged to South African rand. Then we'll look at what is happening at the foreign trade exchange. How is Namibian dollar trading? Then also look at what is happening within the continent, the final day of campaigning in Zambia, to look at what will happen, especially tomorrow, looking at the general elections. So from there, then we'll be able to look at the top traded commodities in 2026, especially today when it comes to the current market rating. Let's come back shortly and look at the conversation.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Ngelo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maundu tutoingida ashike kapeno nweku dite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana. Onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado inawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamwiri nawa ninge kwata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora tatu imwe mbali heali nola natu heali mbali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu mbali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I am planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-288-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
While you are busy enjoying your lunch, while you are busy having some times from 1300 hours, take time and listen to OTR News Bulletin.
On the Radio News Analysis, we go beyond the headlines. We don't just tell you what's happening, we ask why it's happening, how it affects ordinary Namibians, and what it means for the country's future. We examine the structures behind news, connect policy to people's lived realities, and bring in expert voices to make sense of where Namibia is heading.
You want to get into touch with global governance, global diplomacy, economic relation, trade, statistics, human and infrastructure development, and you want to see how policy planning and policy implementation is connected in Namibia, make time and listen to OTR from 1300 hours.
Yeah, we are moving forward with on the Radar News Bulletin to look at space science. It's indicated that the Ministry of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sport, Art and Culture has hosted program on public consultation on the Space and Science Technology Bill today in Commerce Region. To get to the context of that, we'll be able to listen to Dr. Mudia, one of the experts at the event.
Perhaps just to briefly share with you the journey that the committee appointed by the ministry that it has taken up to this stage. Perhaps to appreciate that in 2021, Namibia reached a very significant milestone with the adoption of its very first National Space Science and Technology Policy. In that policy, we provided a national strategic direction for enhancing space science and technology, and of course, and innovation and advances from there. Equally, we believe we have strengthened our scientific and technological capacity, and we continue to do so. With that policy, we vision to equally promote environmental sustainability, which we equally believe we continue to do so. Building on from this foundation, we persisted as a ministry in lobbying politicians up until the 15th meeting of Cabinet on the 29th of July 2025, which then approved and mandated the Ministry of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sports, Arts and Culture, MAISAC for short, to develop the Namibia Space Science and Technology Bill, the bill that brings you here today, this last consultative meeting. Now, to lead this process, the Ministry then established what we call today the National Steering Committee, and that comprises of various heads from government ministries, as we have heard and saw them as when they were introducing themselves, various state-owned enterprises, and equally various institutions of higher learning. In carrying out of its mandate, this committee then adopted a consultative and evidence-based approach to develop the bill. This is in accordance with our country's legislation and guidelines and procedures. Every country has its own laws, even how you develop policies, there are guidelines. As part of this process, the committee undertook a benchmarking mission to the Republic of South Africa to study its legislative, regulatory, and institutional framework governing space science and technology. You would like it or not, we were colonized by South Africa, even though they did not finish their duties. Said like the Germans too colonized us, they did not finish their duties. However, South Africa is a very strategic country to Namibia. Believe me or not, if you commit a crime in Namibia, we are sure it's the same as South Africa. Equally, it was very important for the committee to benchmark. And that did not mean that was the last country. So this benchmarking exercise provided valuable insight into regional and international best practices, and have informed the development of our legislative framework that, of course, responds to our nation and our priorities, not ignoring aligning to international treaties and laws on space science and technology, which is the journey that we continue to undertake. So far, I'm happy to report that the committee has concluded consultation covering 13 regions of our country, making this the last 14th consultation. The treat we took the last because there isn't any special. And of course, we know that this is where central government is, in central business activities and the likes. Hence, we reserve the best for us. Now, why space science and technology law in Namibia? This is indeed to establish a comprehensive law and institutional framework. As you all agree, we do not have the Namibia Space Agency. We do not have coordinated institution. We have an institution that coordinates space science. You would find CREN have responsibility to register and, of course, manage those registration activities. You would find defense also have a function in space science. Of course, there isn't any institution that is responsible for outer space. And will find a lot of institutions, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Agriculture, all benefiting from space science product on the downstream. But of course, the upper streams, no one has ever tapped today. As a ministry responsible for space science, it gives us a worry because we all have been dealing with space science on ad hoc basis. While nations and global the environment on governing space science have changed, we take it a very important step that we develop the law for the country. More especially in principle, aim to establish legal and institutional framework for the development, regulation and governance of space science and technology activities in Namibia. Equally to promote research, innovation, education and capacity development, and capacity building within the Namibian space sector. Again, to ensure Namibia's compliance with international space law, relevant treaties and other space-related international obligations. Equally, to promote collaboration among government, academia, industries, and international partners in advancing space science and technology. Third, lastly, to ensure investment and participation in the development of Namibian space economic sector. And last.
Yeah, that was Dr. Mudia, one of the experts looking at space, science and technology bill, the necessity of it, looking at ministries that will benefit from it, and also look at what public consultation mean, especially when it comes to the input of making sure that Namibia take part when it comes to science and also space technology. Moving forward, we are looking at the Namibian domestic economic outlook. We are also looking at today's communique, especially from the central bank, that is looking at the monetary policy statement and also the maintenance of a repo rate to 6.75%. And we'll be able to listen to the governor of the Bank of Namibia. From there, I will be in contact with Saku Martens, especially to look at the reasoning behind the communique of the central bank. The other aspect, also to look at what is the necessity of keeping Namibian dollar pegged to South African rand, what are some of the challenges and also opportunities within that context. So let's look at what the governor of the Bank of Namibia had to say, especially in communication of Namibia policy statement.
Governor Lesego Moseki, the governor of the Bank of Botswana, we are glad to have you here as our guest, together with your management. The Deputy Governor of the bank, Mr. Nicholas Mukasa, Deputy Governor Leone Dan, members of the Monetary Policy Committee, the management of the Bank of Namibia, the members of the media who are present here, a very good morning to all of you. We have gathered here, I think as it was announced by the Director of Ceremony, to share with you the monetary policy stance or the decision that was taken yesterday, and we want to share it with you today. So on the 10th and the 11th of August this year, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Namibia held its fourth bi-monthly meeting of 2026 to decide on the appropriate monetary policy stance for the next 2 months. Guided by a comprehensive assessment of the latest economic indicators and also mindful of the need to safeguard the peg between the Namibian dollar and the South African rand, the MPC unanimously decided to maintain the repo rate at 6.75%. Now, getting a little bit into elaboration of that, looking at the global economy, just a short summary. The global economic activity moderated since the previous MPC meeting, while growth prospects remained largely unchanged. Monitored stock markets strengthened, while bond yield broadly increased. Most key commodity prices rose relatively to the levels at the previous MPC meeting. Inflation eased across most monitored economies, while policy rates remain broadly steady. Available indicators suggest that growth held firm in several monitored economies during the second quarter of 2026. Despite slowing, growth remained relatively solid in the United States, in China, while economic activity improved in the euro area. Overall, the global economy appears to have weathered the ongoing negative supply shock better than initially anticipated or initially projected. This is partly due to investment in technology. Looking ahead, global growth is forecast to remain broadly unchanged relative to the previous outlook. In particular, the International Monetary Fund, in its July 2026 World Economic Outlook, projected growth to slow from 3.5% in 2025 to 3% in 2026 before recovering to 3.4% in 2027. Risk to the outlook remain tilted to the downside, particularly stemming from the potential re-escalation of geopolitical tension in the Middle East. Moreover, commodity price volatility, eroded policy buffers, and supply shortages could further drag on global growth. Key global stock markets rallied since the previous MPC meeting, while bond yields edged higher. Notably, the Standard & Poor's 500 and the Johannesburg Security Exchange All Share Index recently recorded gains, supported in part by robust corporate earnings. Similarly, bond yields remain elevated across most monitored jurisdictions, primarily reflecting inflation concerns amid geopolitical risk premium. Prices of most commodity increased since the previous MPC sitting. The price of gold rose somewhat on the back of safe haven demand amid reduced optimism regarding the higher US interest rates. Similarly, uranium spot prices also increased, ascribed to sustained demand for clean energy. Zinc and copper prices also remain elevated on account of demand and supply imbalances. In contrast, rough diamond prices remain subdued, and this is due to weak demand precipitated by competition from lab-grown diamonds. Brent crude oil prices remain elevated since the last MPC meeting. Prices initially declined, but as the conflict in the Middle East re-escalated, they soared close to $100 per barrel before retreating to $88 per barrel most recently. This clearly illustrates persistent inflationary pressures emanating from the prolonged war. Despite persistent inflationary pressures, the most recent inflation prints diverge across the most monitored economies. Since the June 2026 MPC meeting, inflation was lower in the US, in the Euro area, in the United Kingdom, in Brazil, and in China, while it rose in Japan, in India, in Russia, and in South Africa. Nevertheless, inflation has generally remained above respective central bank targets, partly reflecting pass-through effects of the energy shock.
Yeah, that is what is happening in the Namibian economy, looking at downward revised domestic economic outlook, and also to look at the maintenance of the repo rate to 6.75% in the next 2 months. We'll be in contact with Maltens Saku, an economist, to look at the reasoning behind maintaining the repo rate, and also to look at the relationship between Namibian dollar and South African rand. What are some of the challenges and opportunities, and also to say what the country can do, especially to maintain its goal of annual economic growth of 6% for the implementation of NDP 6. Let's come back shortly.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Ngelo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweko tite opoye ekukulile oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshuana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna emitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu kondado nawa nuneudo otukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshefa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamwiri nawa ningepata fanona monika ko Eagle FM onora etatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-2888-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that doesn't have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
While you are busy enjoying your lunch, while you are busy having some times from 1300 hours, take time and listen to OTR News Bulletin.
On the Radio News Analysis, we go beyond the headlines. We don't just tell you what's happening, we ask why it's happening, how it affects ordinary Namibians, and what it means for the country's future. We examine the structures behind news, connect policy to people's lived realities, and bring in expert voices to make sense of where Namibia is heading.
You want to get into touch with Global governance, global diplomacy, economic relation, trade, statistics, human and infrastructure development, and you want to see how policy planning and policy implementation is connected in Namibia, make time and listen to OTR from 1300 hours.
Yeah, we are moving forward with On the Radar News Bulletin, 34 minutes past the hour of 1. I'm in communication with Malten Saku. He's an economist, and also to look at the current monetary policy statement announcement, particularly to look at the reasoning behind that. But we are going to look at two questions. The first one, why is it necessary to continue pegging Namibian dollar to the US, to the SA rand? And also the second aspect is also the vulnerability of the Namibian economy. Saku, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Radar News Bulletin.
Good afternoon. Always a pleasure.
Yes. Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Now let us look at the current monetary policy statement announcement. One of the reasons being given, and has always been given, to say our economic decision, our financial policy decision are made particularly in line with where we peg our dollar to the South African rand. Why is it necessary to keep this relationship?
I think first and foremost, we have to look at the currency. It's one of the very, very, very important things to a country.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind in how we look at our economy already is already a drain to us. So the reason why our rand is fixed to the South African rand to a 1-to-1 ratio is to make sure that our currency has value. Otherwise, if it's not fixed to the rand, it will not have value. Then we are going to experience situations that, if we look in countries like Zimbabwe before they didn't incorporate the US dollar back again, who have an economic downfall. Because the rand, or let's say the currency, will fall. And when the currency falls, it's obvious investors will not also want to invest into a country where the currency is very low. And then when your currency is very low, then you expect also your products and everything else not to have value because your money doesn't have value. And the living standard is affected. Because even if people are earning income, they cannot use it for something bigger or better because the currency in that country doesn't have value.
But did that help us anyway, or it made us vulnerable?
It helped us in most ways. So to say, putting in mind that most of the investors that are investing in South Africa, they're also investing in Namibia because they know they will benefit the same benefits. And looking at our country in terms of natural resources, we are bound to get more economic investors. I'll mostly touch on investors because they are the ones that are bringing foreign currency. In terms of us Namibians, we have benefits. If you look at, let's say, for instance, what $100 can acquire for you here in Namibia, is a that we can acquire for you if you go out in South Africa. But and if you look at what a kwacha can acquire for you in Namibia, it cannot acquire you anything. Meaning to say our dollar has value. And if you take our dollar into Angola, it's something that is very, very big because value over the Angolan kwacha. Yes.
Yeah. Now, let's, before you look at the Namibian economic vulnerability, to say, did it bring, what are some of the challenges of continue being pegged to the South African rand? Because when you look at countries such as Botswana, we are in the same common custom union, but they are not pegged their money to SA. But
I think,
yeah.
I think one of the challenges is the fact that, I said I will basically base the conversation or my points on investors.
Yeah.
Because for a country to grow, it needs investors.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges Namibia might face by pairing its rand to the South African is that anything that affects the South African affects the South African.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that are manipulating the currency. If they decide today that they are increasing their inflation into the country, Namibia has to increase their inflation. Because they have to do it because they are the rand within the country, if they don't keep up with what is happening in South Africa, then it means the money will lose value. So we are chasing what the South Africans are doing. It is one challenge. Another challenge is that if Now, the problem comes that South Africa has a high population and living standard is well. However, now in Namibia, we have a low population, but we don't have better living standards. So now, what happens is, if the rand keeps on being fixed to a 1-to-1 ratio with the South African rand, then Namibians cannot make individual, or a country cannot make individual decisions bearing benefit its people, neither anyone else, because whatever it does, it has to make sure that it does not affect their trade relationship with the South Africans.
Yes, let's look at Namibia economic vulnerability. It's noted that Namibia economy remain vulnerable from external shock. And the question is always to say, looking at even the current policy statement announcement is indicating that the Namibian economy, domestic economic outlook is revised downward, which means that it's below the initial prediction. And it has been like that. Even the last year, the prediction are always higher than what is actually happening. Now, there is something that economists have been also speaking about to say, what other things can be done, especially not only to continue referencing the external shocks, and also to reach the target of full implementation of NDP 6, that the prediction are indicating that it requires at least 6% domestic economic growth. What can be done from where you are standing?
First and foremost, I want us to look at two main things within this question, and very, very important, which is the economy and vulnerable external shock. The economy of the country, it's something that depends on a lot of things. And I would say for it to rise, in most cases, I would regard more investment in agriculture, construction, in order to boost the economy. If you look into, I want to give a reference of countries like South Africa. I will not go very far, I will just take South Africa.
Okay.
If you look how the economy of South Africa is growing, is because one of their mainly investment is sports. And how much they generate from a sport game, it accumulates to round about millions of dollars. Now, as it's a country, Namibia, what are we doing? I'll give an example of our national teams. If they go and play outside of the country, they have to pay around about 1-point-something million just to play outside of the country. But if then that same money could be utilized within our country's jurisdiction, our economic growth. So I think in order for us to keep up with economic growth, in order for us to have better living standards, in order for us to have people that are earning better standards and living better standards to boost the economy, we then have to invest in things like sports. We have to invest in things like agriculture, construction, which creates a lot of employment. Yes.
Yeah, maybe just last before I let you go, is the aspect of having many projects that we have started. As an economist, looking at national developmental projects, is it okay to have all projects on one table, or is it necessary to concentrate and focus on key projects that can boost the economy? Is it right to move with all of them, or is it okay to focus on those that are boosting the economy, especially looking at the resources?
It's like you are moving. You always have to know which step you need to take. It's either you take it to the right or you take it to the left. But you know, if I take it to the left, it's a calculated step, or if I take it to the right, it's a calculated step. It's the same thing with the project. It's the same thing with the project. You cannot focus on 10 projects while you still have 2 that are pending that you just started until 20%. So advice I would give for sure is focus on something and finish it. Do something and finish it and focus on the next project. If then you want to focus on everything else, then delegate. Don't be alone doing 10 projects. Delegate other responsibilities to people that are within the same sector as you that can complete the projects that are there, in order for every project to be running and in order for every project to be completed. If we look at, we are already in August, and if projects are not complete, then it means to say they have to be taken to another year, which is 2027.
Yes, Saku Martins, thank you very much for that input, and also thank you for that analysis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sombe. Always nice having chats with you.
All right, cool. Yeah, that is Saku Malten looking at the advantages of picking Namibian dollar to South African rand, especially looking at attraction of investment, boosting of investment, and also to look at challenges to say whatever is happening in South Africa, if it's negatively affecting the economy, we are most likely to be affected, and also to look at what can be done, especially to reach the targets and the goals of national developmental priorities, especially reaching the target of NDP 6 that economists are saying for creation of the estimated jobs, that is 500,000 jobs by 2030, you need at least an economic growth, domestic economic growth above 6%. Looking at the current revision, especially Namibia economic outlook, it's below 3%, and that is the current indication. Let us look at the short commercial break. We'll come back looking at international foreign currency exchange rates. Where is Namibian dollar standing in terms of trading? And also we look at top commodities in global market.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM.
Do you need toiletries and household cleaners? You won't get it cheaper than a U-Save up to the 7th of June. Get 2 50mm jars of Vaseline for only 25 Namibian dollars. Smell fresh with Playboy Roll-On Deodorant for just 18.99 Namibian dollars. Get 2 kilograms of Surf hand washing powder for just 49.99 Namibian dollars. Get 750 milliliter Sunlight dishwashing liquid for 28.99 Namibian dollars. And get 2 boxes of Cares Maxi sanitary pads for only 12.99 Namibian dollars. U-Save, where else?
Opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff.
Ngelo wapumbwa Eva tere ulikoni maondo tuto ingida ashike kapeno nweko dite opoye ekukulile oshafa fana nongeshe faili mehola mo iho etike kovano ile koshiwana onongeshe fa yapumbwa kukara ya kovano okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu konda doi nawa Nuneudo o tukwetera o special ngeta shake ngeshe fa omarudi dayo loka opone ushendi fenawa nokumona oijamweli nawa ningepata fanona Monica ko Eagle FM onora itatu imwe bali heali nola natu heali bali no heali ile ko berewa nora hetatu natu bali o hetatu batatu o mafelane Eagle FM the eye.
My friend, why do you seem so worried?
Ace, I'm planning an event for next weekend, and I don't know how to best get people to hear about it.
Saima, don't worry about those small things. Contact Eagle FM today. Eagle FM has a dedicated team that can travel anywhere countrywide to broadcast live at any event, such as a promotion, organizational launch, anniversary, wedding, funeral, political or traditional and church events, and basically any event that you wish to broadcast on a national level. Call them now and talk to Monica at 081-270-3727 or the office number 083-2888-400. Eagle FM, the eye.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have a capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura menace.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
While you are busy enjoying your lunch, while you are busy having some times from 1300 hours, take time and listen to OTR News Bulletin.
On the Radio News Analysis, we go beyond the headlines. We don't just tell you what's happening, we ask why it's happening, how it affects ordinary Namibians, and what it means for the country's future. We examine the structures behind news, connect policy to people's lived realities, and bring in expert voices to make sense of where Namibia is heading.
You want to get into touch with global governance, global diplomacy, economic relation, trade, statistics, human and infrastructure development, and you want to see how policy planning and policy implementation is connected in Namibia, make time and listen to OTR from 1300.
Yeah, we are moving forward with On the Radar News Bulletin. We are looking at international foreign exchange rate, especially looking at Namibian dollar. How is Namibian dollar trading compared to other currency or in relation to other currencies? The euro dollar, Namibia is standing at 19.17, and looking at pound sterling, standing at 22.47 Namibian dollars, and US dollar still below $17. It's standing at 16.62 Namibian dollars. Now, to look at the top traded minerals in the global market, top traded minerals at number one, there is iron ore. That is the world's most traded bulk mineral commodity, and is trading at $100 to $120 per metric ton. And also you have gold that is trading at $2,100 to $2,400 per troy ounce. Then we have copper. It's at number 3 in terms of trading, especially top traded commodities in terms of minerals, and the major exchange with a benchmark price around $8,000 to $9,500 per metric ton, followed by silver and lithium. In the top 5 top traded minerals, gold, copper, silver, and lithium. Then you have iron ore on top of the trade market. Diamond is not existing in the top 5 trading commodities, and that is what is happening. Now, to look at Zambia, Zambia will host, we have general elections tomorrow, where President Hakainde Hichilema will be faced with his opponents, especially to look at who is going to be the leader of Zambia, who is going to have the highest office in the land of Zambia, and that will be determined by Zambians tomorrow. Let's look at this and come back shortly.
Tens of thousands of supporters of Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema gathered in Lusaka for his final major campaign rally 2 days before the country votes. Hichilema, who came to power in 2021, is seeking a second 5-year term, campaigning on his record on education, jobs, and economic recovery.
Day after tomorrow, 13th of August,
everywhere I have been, people have agreed that on Thursday they will vote for the UPND. Have you also agreed to vote for the UPND? Vote for the UPND on Thursday. If I say Thursday UPND, you respond, tick a lot of salt. Supporters credit the president with bringing greater political stability and investing in schools and public services. But for many Zambians, those gains are being weighed against unemployment, high living costs, and pressure on household incomes.
Well, honestly, I've been from Kaunda era, Chiluba era, all these eras which have passed as president. For the first time in my life, I've
Let me see the hands for those that will vote for the UPND.
I don't care about the money because I can work for it. That's the piece is what I really, really love about this president. That's all.
Hichilema is facing a stronger opposition than initially expected from newcomer Brian Mundubile, who has accused authorities of abducting and detaining opposition figures, journalists, and other critics. He says the election must be allowed to take place without fear or intimidation.
I'm expecting very peaceful elections, as it has been already, because some time back you are not peaceful at all. I'm telling you, seeing people, having a presidential rally, they are free in their markets, shops are open. It really gives me a picture that we are really having a peaceful election than before.
With campaigning now over, Zambia's voters face a choice between continuity under Hichilema and a growing opposition challenge with jobs, living costs and the credibility of the democratic process all at stake.
Yeah, what is happening in Libya tomorrow. It's a D-Day to maintain the president or to put another president in Zambia in the democratic elections. Moving forward, looking at economic news, what is coming from Libya. It is stated that the governor of Libya, central bank, resigned without an explanation. Libya is one of the countries that has been going through economic hardship since 2011 after the end of Gaddafi regime. And currently, the governor of Central Bank of Libya has resigned without an explanation. Let us look at this and come back shortly.
Libya's central bank governor Naji Issa has resigned, several reports said Monday, though no reason was given. Issa and Vice Governor Mirey El Barassi were appointed by Libya's East-based parliament in September 2024 under a UN-backed deal aimed at ending standoff over oil production and easing a deep financial crisis. Libya remains split between the UN-recognized government of the Abdullah Hamid Dbeibah in the west and the rival Eastern Authority backed by Khalifa Haftar. Issa replaced Sadiq Al-Kabir, who had been criticized by officials close to Dbeibah over the bank's management and state funds. After Al-Kabir was removed in August 2024, the Issa administration declared force majeure, suspending oil production and exports and cutting output by half.
Yeah, that is what is happening, especially to look at Libya and the divided country since 2011 and the resignation of the governor of Bank of Libya, the Central Bank of Libya. To continue looking at international news, moving forward, it is indicated that at least 15 people died after a ferry overturned in Zimbabwe Lake in Karimba. This is a developing story, especially that is happening currently in Zimbabwe. Let us look at this and also come back shortly.
At least 15 people have died after a ferry capsized in Zimbabwe's Lake Kariba. That boat, with 90 passengers and 5 crew members on board, was traveling between Kariba town and islands in the lake. And local media said strong waves overturned the ferry on Tuesday. Search and rescue teams are still looking for several missing passengers, including children. Haru Matasa joining us from the capital, Harare. Haru, what can you tell us? Any updates on the numbers of casualties and any more information on how that accident happened?
Well, boat accidents happen every now and again on Lake Kariba, but this one was bad because of the numbers, and it's a big story here in Zimbabwe. Authorities say that ferry was meant to carry 90 passengers and 5 crew members, but it was overloaded. Another complication is that children under a certain age don't pay or get tickets, so their names may not have been on the passenger list. So it's not known how many children were on board and how many of them are unaccounted for. These are some of the numbers as of Tuesday night from authorities. 77 people rescued, and they think about 27 people are unaccounted for. Now, there's social media videos that have been circulating that show people boarding the ferry before it took off, and you can tell there are a lot of people on that ferry. And then when it started taking off, people standing along the shoreline and waving off to people, they were speaking in Shona local language. They were saying things like, look at the water, it doesn't look safe. Are those people going to be okay? And then shortly afterwards, the ferry capsized. Now, Lake Kariba, I mean, I've been on that lake several times in the big ferries and the small boats. When the weather is great, it's beautiful out there. But when it suddenly changes and you're in the middle of nowhere with all that water around and the boat is doing this, it's very, very scary. And search and rescue operations are still on the way.
So what more can you tell us about the search and rescue efforts? How is it going, and are Zimbabwean authorities getting outside help?
Well, the accident happened Tuesday afternoon, so it was a race against time before it got dark. I'll try and show you a little bit from this paper what it looked like. You've got the chopper there circling around, then you got what's left of the ferry. Most of it is underwater. So authorities send out boats and helicopters, of course, but Kariba is a fishing community, lots of fishing camps and a lot of tourism.
Yeah, that is what is happening in Zimbabwe. And also to look at what have happened, especially looking at that accident that has claimed the life of 15 people, especially those who were packed in a boat in Lake Kariba in Zimbabwe. So dear listeners, that will bring us to the end of On the Radar News Bulletin, and I'm leaving you in the good hands of Penyambeko Jonas and Andreas Erastus. From me, David Shombe, bye-bye, and see you around.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM and any of its staff. The views and opinions expressed by our guests and callers are not those of Eagle FM
wapumbwa Eva Tere ulikoni maondo tutoingida ashike kapeno nweko dite opoye ekukulile. Oshafafana nongeshe faili meholamo ihoetike kovano ile koshiwana. Onongeshefa yapumbwa kukaraya kovano. Okupitiramo Eagle FM otuna ebitoda njuka okukwetera oipindi konu konda doili nawa.